Hello and welcome back to our marathon. And Viken Sonens Papazian is an attorney, and he joins me now. He's the chair of the Armenian National Committee Western Region, and he's the man with the 411 about what's happening, the history of it, and why we are all up in arms about the protocols. Viken, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I want to ask you, first of all, this is a historic moment. We're not just signing a protocol that just come up in a couple of weeks. This has decades-long story, maybe even 100 years or so. Set us up. Armenia became independent in 91, and then Turkey started a blockade in 93. What happened then?
Well, you have to remember, not only did Turkey start a blockade in 1993, but they also provided significant logistical and military support to Azerbaijan during the Karabakh War. During the earthquake, Turkey was not particularly cooperative. In fact, at one point, taking valuable good wheat and exchanging it for inedible wheat and sending it to Armenia, which couldn't be then used. So it's my feeling that as an attorney, you look at the facts, and the facts are what they are. And since the time of the genocide, Turkey's pan-Turkic aspirations have never really died. And they would like relations with Armenia, but relations on their terms. And their terms are that essentially, Armenia, forget about the Armenian case. They've tried it through the diaspora. It hasn't worked. They've spent tens of millions of dollars, perhaps even hundreds of millions of dollars during these past 25 years to suppress the Armenian case. And now, quite frankly, I see this protocol as another end run around that and try and get the Armenian government to acquiesce on this issue and to essentially squash the Armenian case.
And why the diaspora is up in arms is because on August 31st, as we've talked about for weeks now, the Swiss and the Turkish and the Armenian governments made public these protocols. What are the objections that everyone in the diaspora has been angry about?
Well,
let's talk about the basics.
Okay, well, two of the most obvious ones are the creation of a historical commission to examine the events of 1915. Now, in and of itself, the creation of a historical commission to look at what has long been established suggests that there is some sort of dispute or there's some sort of debate about the Armenian genocide. That would be, let's say, the historical component to this that's on its face objectionable. The second part that's most obvious is this idea of respecting the borders as they exist today, which would fly in the face of historical realities about borders, the Armenian rights.
The Treaty of Sevres, the Woodrow Wilson plan?
Absolutely. The arbitration that was drafted by the United States. So these two are clearly the most obvious. And to me, the whole purpose of the Turks pushing for these protocols were those two elements, and everything around it is kind of window dressing, as they say.
And they've also been going around, the Prime Minister and other Turkish leaders are saying that they will not sign these protocols unless the Karabakh and Azerbaijan situation is finalized. What are they hoping for?
Well, I think, again, they want Armenians to essentially give up their rights. And that's what this is all about. The Armenian case is as valid today as it was in 1915. And this is an attempt to undermine the Armenian case. And it's an attempt to get Armenians to do their dirty work. And that's really what this is all about. And that's why it's so outrageous. And I think that is why people have to stand up and say what needs to be said on this. Because the people of Armenia or the people of Karabakh are not the only stakeholders in this. The Armenian nation is not defined by borders, it's defined by people. And everyone in the Armenian nation has a right, a vested right, in the outcome of Haitad. So everyone has a right to weigh in on this, and they should weigh in on this, because if they don't, quite frankly, the results will be disastrous.
Let's talk about the ANC. There are a number of chapters on the West Coast, obviously the East Coast as well, and the ANCA. All of you, the activists, volunteers, have been active over the past couple of weeks. What is the message that you've tried to communicate to the Armenian-American audience?
Well, is that take a good look at what is about to be, or potentially about to be, signed. And look at it with a discerning eye and understand that these many, many years of struggle, of destruction and rebirth are at risk here. And any self-respecting Armenian who understands the concept of justice, who understands the root of the Armenian cause, has to be alarmed at this. You know, I was talking to some of my friends from the Home Minutemen just before coming in here today, and I said, what is the motivation to enter into an agreement, let alone this particular agreement? Why do you bother entering into an agreement if it's so stacked against you? And this agreement, on its face, provides the Armenians nothing and takes away so many rights and so many obligations that it's mind-numbing. There is absolutely no upside to this agreement as far as I can see.
What kind of an agreement would what should Armenia ask for? What would benefit Armenia if the case or the issue was opening the borders? What should Armenia want?
Armenia as a nation is a relatively new nation. It's a nation that was born out of great struggle. It's a nation that was born out of a genocidal attempt to eradicate Armenians off the face of the earth. That has not changed. 100 years, and it's been less than 100 years, but 100 years in the larger scheme of things is not a particularly long time. And the justification and our position 100 years ago really hasn't changed. It's as legitimate today as it was back then. And we're in a position to push that forward, and quite frankly, we are pushing that forward. And this comes at a time where I really do feel that the government of Turkey and its allies, which are few, are really backpedaling. And for the Armenian government to step into this mess the way they have is very alarming.
Fascinating, Viken. If you had a message to all of the folks that are members of the Armenian National Committee, have been supporters, or of the other organizations that have all come together across the board, all the political organizations, if you had a message to them to say, what would you say to them on this eve?
I would say protect your rights. It's your rights. It's the rights that have been endowed to you by your forebearers. It is the rights that survived the marches through the desert, that were preserved by people who sacrificed so much to allow us today to stand here as prosperous people. And it's your not only right but obligation to make sure that those rights aren't given away and squandered. And that's what's at risk today. So if there's ever a moment where we have to stand up and be counted, it is now.
Very well said, Attorney Viken Sonens-Papazian, Chairman of the Armenian National Committee Western Region. Thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully all of you will join the Armenian community at large on Sunday, September 27th at 5 p.m. The marathon continues now with my colleagues across the stage.
Այս օրերում բարոնայք կենտադրենք, որ այս պրոտոկոլները, որոնց մասին մենք այսօր ազգովին մտահոգված ենք, եթե քաղաքական ըլլալու հարց չունենք այստեղ, սակայն չենք կրնարդատրել ըլլալե ազգային եւ հայրենասեր։ Խնդրեմ։
Նախ կուզեի շնորհակալություն հայտնել այս առիթից, որ մեզ դրվեց, որ մենք էլ կարողանանք մեր հերթին այս շարժումի եւ հավաքի կարեւորությունը գաղութին փոխանցել։ Ինչպես գիտեք, մենք վաղը պետք է ունենայինք նույն ժամվա ընթացքում, որը դասավորվել եւ կազմակերպվել է սրանից 4-5 ամիսներ առաջ մեր կենտրոնի մարզասրահի բացումը։ Բայց նկատի ունենալով, որ ունենալու ենք նման մի հավաք եւ շարժում, մասնաճյուղը որոշեց, որ իր բացման օրը հետաձգել եւ անել հոկտեմբերի 4-ին։ Ուրեմն իմանալով այս շարժումի կարևորությունը եւ մենք չխաչաձևելով այս շարժումին հետաձգելով կխնդրենք բոլոր գաղութի հայության նրանք որ կարող են ներկա գտնվել վաղվա ժամը 5-ից մինչև 7-ի շարժման եւ հավաքին եւ իրենց խոսքը լսելի դարձնեն բոլոր աշխարհին։ Ես կուզեմ իմ կողքից կանգնած Արամ Երեմյանն էլ իր խոսքը փոխանցի Հոմենտմենի կողմից։
Այո, շատ կարևոր է այս խնդիրը, որտեղ մենք բավական պատմական հարցեր ունենք Թուրքիայի հետ եւ մենք էլ կոչ կողենք մեր միութենականներին եւ բոլոր յուրաքանչյուր հայի, որտեղ ասի մեկ հատ օր հասական օր է իսկապես պետք է ոտքի կանգնենք եւ մեր ձայնը հասացնենք, որտեղ իմանան, որ այս խնդիրը իսկապես լուրջ խնդիր է եւ մենք ենք, որ մենք պետք է պայման դնենք այս հարցի համար մեր պայմաններով պետք է թուրք կառավարությունը շարժվի եւ ոչ թե մենք Թուրքի պայմաններով, որովհետեւ իրենք են, որ մեզ պետք ունեն իսկապես եւ վճիրը մենք ենք, որ տուժած ենք այս տարիների ընթացքում։